said we never make it on our own, but we're hustling and grinding, so we're proving them all wrong. Every day we're coming closer than we ever could have known, and we don't listen to haters cause we live and die alone. They never understand the struggle that we've done. We've been in a tunnel of our brain for way too long. We gon' make it out together on our own. There's no stopping the inevitable once it has all grown.
Welcome, boxing fans, to another live stream, Fight Night Scores. It's been a action-packed weekend of boxing. We're going to cover all of that shortly. We have Kaiser Cobra, you're joining me in a moment. We're also going to be scoring Ali versus Spinks 1 this week. We've had a break from heavyweights the last stream, which was Barrera versus Morales 1. Absolutely brilliant fight. We're going to probably cover the trilogy over the coming months at some point. But this week we're going back to heavyweights. We've previously watched Spinks versus Holmes. That's the one. This time we've got Spinks' brother Leon against Muhammad Ali, a legendary fight from the 70s. It's 44 years ago this week since this fight. That's the reason why we are scoring it this week. So it'll be quite interesting. Before we do that, we'll have a bit of a recap first on recent weeks. I'm going to welcome to the call Kaiser Cobra. Nice to be back for another Sunday live stream scoring time. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm not bad at all. There's nothing more on a Sunday just to finish the week out with a good fight, and I'm looking forward to this. This is a classic fight in the kind of story of Muhammad Ali, obviously one of the greatest boxers of all time, so I'm really excited to watch this one again.
Yeah, good. As I've said before, I'm not really much of a boxing historian, so I always look forward to learning a bit more about these older fights. I know you've got some knowledge of this fight and obviously many others, so you can give us a bit of the history and the backstory behind the fight. I'm looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a controversial one, so that's what we like, and that's the whole purpose of this stream, this channel. We want to use the Fight Night Score system to hopefully bring more clarity to boxing scorecards, and that's the whole purpose. So before we do that, we'll have a quick discussion about the recent boxing events for the past couple of weekends. Obviously last night we had the huge Khan versus Brook fight in Manchester. Big fight for the UK fight fans at least. First of all, we'll quickly cover from the previous week, Ryder versus Jacobs. This was a big controversial decision. I think a lot of boxing fans that I saw on Twitter and various forums had Jacobs being, a pretty handy winner. Some people could see Ryder possibly getting a draw, but he ended up getting the decision on the cards, which were kind of a bit all over the place, really. Did you watch the fight last week, Kaiser? Give us some thoughts, man.
Yeah, I did watch it. My takeaway, I haven't watched it back since, so this is just based on the first viewing. I do think that Daniel Jacobs won between 7 and 9 rounds. I do think, obviously there were some close ones in there, especially when Ryder kind of had a really strong attack in the second half of the fight. I do think Daniel Jacobs did more than enough to win, though. I think he was hard done by those scorecards. I do think what was interesting, though, in kind of reference to our system, is that there was rounds, like I noted round 2 as being competitive because John Ryder, I thought, was the effective aggressor. He punched more frequently, he landed well to the body. I think the difference was Daniel Jacobs probably landed the cleaner shots, was the more dominant ring general in defense. So that round, realistically, if you account for all the boxing criteria, was probably a 55 or 60% for Daniel Jacobs. Mm-hmm. However, if you don't consider that, and based on what we hear from the British Board of Boxing Control, from a lot of their referees and judges, and their standpoint is that if you just score for activity in terms of landed punches, it's, there's often the phrase is, it's what you like more. Do you like the busier guy or the harder shots? And
Yeah.
that's often what it's reduced into. And it shouldn't be, but we have to acknowledge it does. Then you could start to see some of those earlier rounds. Someone sees that it's 50-50 and they might give it to John Ryder. I do believe one of the judges as well had John Ryder taken a few of the early rounds. So I think looking back on it, it might become a bit more apparent how the decision was reached. Ultimately, that's just my thoughts. I still think it was wrong though, but I think that's how the scorecards might have panned out. John Ryder just being the busier guy, landing more to the body.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really tough call, really. You keep seeing like, oh, Ryder's been hard done by in the past, and it's still not really an excuse. He has been done in the past, you know. But he's got one there, hasn't he? He's been a bit lucky. I'm just looking now at the Fight Night Scores card, the combined card from the users that have scored the fight, and it is a clear 9-3 for Jacobs. What is interesting though is the winning margin percentages are really close. So it's 52.99% average for Johnny Jacobs and 47% for Ryder. So it just shows that, you know, the rounds were really close.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think, you know, a lot of them rounds were won by Jacobs. I think I had that same score, 9-3, on my personal scorecard.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, really, really controversial. At least, you know, Ryder's had a good shake for a change, and he will go on to hopefully, you know, land a big payday fight. Who do you think that he might go and face in the future?
It's hard to say. I know there has been some talk about whether, you know, Canelo will stay at 168 and whether, you know, John Ryder might eventually get a Canelo fight, which is strange in a way because, you know, John Ryder was also robbed against Callum Smith, and if obviously he'd beaten Callum Smith, you know, John Ryder would have unified against Canelo, so it'd be almost kind of poetic in a way if he then managed to get a shot at Canelo. We don't know what's happening there though. Obviously, there's lots of stuff out whether Charlo's going to move up, he'd move up to fight Bivol will come down. All I will say is that there's plenty, you know, John Ryder's kind of a confirmed name now. He's got a decent CV. You know, he has evolved into a good kind of competitive fighter. He's good in the inside. He's a southpaw. He's aggressive. So he will post challenges for the top guys, and I do hope we'll see him in competitive matchups, maybe against who knows, you know, Andrade if he moves up, if that's confirmed, or, you know, Benavidez and whatnot. There's plenty of names out there, so I hope he gets the big paydays.
Yeah, fair enough. There should be options out there for him. So let's move on to last night's events. Obviously, this was big over in the UK. I'm not too sure if it had quite the same effect over in the States, but it was Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. Probably 7, 8, 9, even 10 years too late than really everyone would have liked it to have been. And in the end, it ended up being, you know, a pretty dominant display by Kell Brook. He was pretty impressive, although Khan was clearly a big shell of his former self. You know, he seems to just sag and be wobbled by anything that Kell landed. Did you see the fight? What did you think?
Yeah, I saw it. I thought Brook looked decent. I think obviously he looked pretty well against Crawford as well before obviously the big shot landed, but he does have something left in the tank though. You can see it with the kind of strength of his punch. He's still got power there. You see the timing as well. You know, he was firing that counter jab and landing it flush within the opening minute against Amir Khan. So he still had some stuff there in the tank. Khan's kind of strength dissipated the minute he got hurt with that kind of the big kind of left that Brook landed in the kind of closing, rather the second half of the first minute of the first round, and it just kind of continued from there. I think Brook kind of took the second round off a little bit more. I thought Khan was a bit more active, so I thought actually Khan and the ESPN crew kind of thought that The second round was 50-50. After that, though, when Brook hurt him again and again, he took the shots well, actually, in terms of he managed to stay on his feet and he managed to have enough strength to kind of move around.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he really proved his heart tonight, or rather yesterday night. But it was one-way traffic for the last few rounds of that, and by the time it got to kind of round 5, where he was really struggling to throw, and Kell was going for the uppercut, hooks around the guard. I had no problems at all about the stoppage. I thought Victor Lachlan did actually quite a good job.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Khan was done, and I think Khan's been done for a while now, so it would be good to see him retire. I think Brook, obviously, he's been called out by Eubank Jr. I think that's not a great matchup.
No.
You know, they talk about Conor Benn as well. I think the Benn matchups is fair. I think if it's a catch weight at 150 or something,
Yeah.
to that effect, it could be interesting because Kell Brook's going to cause him problems. I think he might be the hardest puncher he's been in with.
Mhm.
It's going to be different when you get hit with that kind of. It's the veteran, stiff jab though, kind of in the vein of like your kind of your Triple G's or Vladimir Klitschko's. Kell Brook has a very, very good jab.
Yeah.
So for an aggressive fighter like that, especially to deal with the power as well, it'll be a good challenge. I do think it will depend on how much Brook's chin hold up. I think Ben might eventually get to him, but it'll be a good test and a decent last payday for Brook.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure about the Eubank potential matchup. I'm not sure. Did Eubank call that one out on Twitter, or did it get mentioned previously before that? Because it just doesn't really make much sense to me. He's clearly a bigger guy.
I think Eubank said that on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's just after a bit of a money fight. But yeah, that one doesn't really make much sense. Maybe the Conor Benn one does, but again, they're at opposite ends of the careers, I guess. It would be a kind of a feeding him to Ben scenario. Although, Cal's still couldn't cause him problems. He's still got something left, and he was always a pretty classy fighter. So it'd be pretty interesting to see what they do anyway. And like you said, I'm hoping that Khan will call it a day. He's clearly done. He's made plenty of money, and he's had a good career. So yeah, hopefully Khan stays retired after this. Kell Brook can go on to have 1 or 2 more fights, I guess. But yeah, pretty interesting. While we're here, we can just briefly touch on a couple of other names that fought last night. So earlier on in the day, I think it was over in Russia, we saw, well, I didn't personally see it, but Jorge Linares, however you pronounce his first name, I don't know. He ended up being stopped. I didn't see the fight, but from what I saw on Twitter, it sounded like he was kind of controlling the rounds, and then a bit later on, the opponent, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce, got to him, started breaking him down, and then it was a pretty vicious ending. Did you see the end of that fight or anything?
Yeah, I saw the end of it. It seems, I haven't seen the full fight, but it does seem to be another kind of instance for a lot of Linares' fights where he's been kind of up in the fight. Undeniably, I saw most of the scorecards had him, between 1 and 3 points up, and then just losing it late in the fight. Obviously, starting to lose more rounds, and then inevitably getting kind of stopped late on.
But yeah, very late.
I'm not sure where Linares would go from here as well. He's had quite a few losses. Obviously, the Devin Haney performance, a lot of people think that stood out a bit because obviously he did pose some trouble, obviously did bobble him, but the Kano knockout, I think, was a few fights before that. We got stopped in the first round at 140. He's been stopped a few times now. I think it might be time for Linares to hang it up as well because, it's in the same kind of vein of Amir Khan. He's flashy, he's excellent to watch at points, he can box, he has these decent power, fast hands, but can't help. He just does get caught with that chin sometimes, and does kind of fade sometimes later in the fight. So, he's had a good career as well, but I think it's time for him to kind of hang them up as well. Though he hasn't got much more to prove. Yeah,
no, I agree there. I think he's been around for maybe a few too many years already. He was a great fighter back in the day, but yeah, I agree. He's one of my favourite fighters, so I think he should hang him up now. Another result that happened overnight in the States. No, I think it was in Mexico actually. Jaime Munguia, he got the win as expected, I guess. Although there was some issues with his weight, wasn't there? And I briefly saw some stuff on Twitter where had he fainted or something after the weigh-in. He wasn't quite right, but he ended up winning in round 3, I think it was, by stoppage. So just kind of as expected. Anything to add to that?
No, nothing for me. I think you really just put the nail on the head just with the words "as expected." Just want to see him in much bigger fights. That's all I can say.
Yeah, he's exciting, isn't he? When you've seen him, but I think he needs to be stepping up to the biggest fights possibly out there. Who do you think it'd be good to get him in with?
At this stage, it's a bit hard to say. I think he just needs to step up. I think, well, it depends on what happens with Triple G and Murata. Obviously, that'll be happening in a few months' time. Could find the winner of that. There's other names out there as well. God, if you actually look at the middleweight rankings, it's a bit sparse though, because obviously there's talk of Andrade moving up, Charlos, also tied up potential Canelo negotiations. Lara's ranked at middleweight, but doesn't seem to have a lot going on. So who knows? Could be fighting Eubank Jr. on a show near you soon.
Yeah, that could be exciting actually. That'd be a good fight. It'd be interesting to see how he develops and where he goes next. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Anyway, I think that's all I can think of for the last couple of weeks for our recap. Have you got anything else that you need to touch on or want to touch on? I can't think of anything.
No, I think we summed up the main points.
Alright, cool. So, okay. Well, let's move things along then. We can get on to our watch along. So, this week it is Ali versus Spinks 1. I don't really know anything about this fight up until obviously we've decided that we're going to cover it this week, so I've done a little bit of research but not much. I know it's going to be entertaining and controversial, which is always good. But if you got a bit of background that you could give us just while I get us all set up, the backstory to the fight. Everyone knows Ali, but a bit about Spinks and where Ali was at in his career at that stage.
Yeah, so Spinks came into the fight with a 6 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw record. So it was by far one of the most, if not one of the most inexperienced candidate for the heavyweight championship. I think that basically took in place. I think the biggest name he'd fought was Scott Ledoux, which was the fight he had a 10-round draw with. Scott Ledoux was obviously a contender. I think he boxed Ali a few years before as well. So when you comes to the 1977 ring rankings, Leon Spinks was ranked the number 9 heavyweight in the world. So he was still doing enough to get the top 10 for the ring. But he was a huge underdog going into this fight. 7 fights. You can kind of imagine. What is interesting is that it was so doubtful about his victory that apparently Leon Spinks' own family were doubting his victory. Apparently Leon Spinks wasn't even too sure himself. So it was a huge undertaking. He was listed as a 10-1 underdog. So that was when it comes to odds, that's especially in boxing in terms of upsets, that's actually highly up there. I think that's probably Ruiz Joshua 1 territory, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it was. I think he was around that, wasn't he? Maybe slightly less. So
it's big underdog, highly inexperienced, but nevertheless, a talented amateur, as well as obviously having something in the pro, highly aggressive. Obviously, he came from a very impoverished background, and kind of fighting all the way to the top. It was interesting that it's noted that he was kind of really struggled with commitment, but this is apparently one of the first fights that, or rather one of his only fights that he really kind of turned it on for in terms of his training.
Yeah. Right, interesting. Thanks for that backstory. It'll be quite interesting to see what Spinks' boxing style is like after we've watched Michael Spinks and Holmes. He had that very distinctive style.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it runs in the family. It'd be quite interesting to see, how they differ. So yeah, I mean, if you're ready, I'm ready. I think you should be able to see the stream, the video on our stream. It is in place. So let me just make a start, and we'll get going. What I've done this week is we're going to listen to the actual intros as well, just so we can get the records, so we know a little bit about them at least.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the feature attraction of the afternoon. The officials signed by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Ready to go. The heavyweights are already gloved up. Lou Tabbitt and Archery. The referee is Dave Pearl. The matchmaker for the main event, Mel Grafton. This is 15 rounds of boxing for the heavyweight championship of the world. Introducing, in the red corner, hailing from St. Louis, Missouri, the 1976 Olympic gold medalist, weighing 197 and 1/4 pounds, Leon Spinks. And in the blue corner, fighting out of Louisville, Kentucky, weighing 224 and 1/4 pounds, introducing the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Okay, so I guess we didn't really get the announcement of the records back in them days.
Ali also with a significant weight advantage as well. 224 pounds to Leon Spinks is 197.
Yeah.
Leon Spinks a cruiserweight by today's standards. Ali obviously a bit heavier than he was in his prime. Obviously, at this point, Ali is towards the real twilight of his career, one of his last fights.
Yeah.
This guy had his prime in 1966, and this is 12 years later.
A long way removed from there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, he should have been well retired by now. And this is obviously one of the negative sides of the sport. That's contributed to health conditions later in life, but
Yeah.
still be able to move around and whatnot.
Okay, away we go.
And what you were saying earlier about the difference between the styles is that Michael Spinks obviously a lot more technical boxer, Leon far more aggressive. Obviously, immediately Leon Spinks just loves to
Just
tear up.
launched straight into him.
Analogy, obviously.
Yes, I
Immediately
can
go to the
see that.
inside.
So Ali there didn't throw a single punch back. Could that have been stopped?
Yeah.
Maybe today could have been.
Not if it was Terry O'Connor, he'd have let it go on for a few more rounds. Yeah, there's Leon, he's changing levels, he's fainting, but Ali just hiding behind those gloves. He looks a bit like Javier Khan in those middle rounds. Putting on the textbook guard and just not going back.
Not doing anything. Just soaking it up. What is actually interesting here is that we don't have the round time, which we're kind of used to from the 80s and onwards. So, I'm guessing we're a minute and a half in. It's clearly so far a Spinks round. He's just obviously the more aggressive fighter. He's coming forward. He's trying to do stuff, but he's not really landing, I guess. But
well, whilst we have the kind of break in the action here, so far this is an interesting thing about our scorecards is obviously how we use them is that Ali hasn't thrown a punch. Spinks has landed maybe 15-20 decent shots to the body, just around the guard. And this is the point where obviously you've said you won't kind of use the kind of 80-20s unless, or 80-20s or 90-10s unless they're kind of a knockdown or kind
Yeah.
of like the guy's been hurt and he's on the back foot for most of the round. Where obviously it comes interesting for me where Leon Spinks fully in control of the round. One guy is not throwing. I tend to consider well, what point does it become 80-20 if the guy hasn't even thrown a punch or whatnot?
Yeah.
So I think this round is actually really interesting about how we actually use our scorecards and how we score fights. Obviously, it's changed a bit now. Ali's
Just
on a
landed
decent right there.
that.
He's been blocking a bit better as well. It's still a clear Spinks round so far, but yeah, it does make you think. Obviously, the whole point of this is just to score fights and kind of become better judges in a sense, question the action as it happens.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I would say I agree with what you're saying there. It's the interpretation of how you want to use how close a round was. Like you said, up until
I think as well that kind of distinguishes why this is the best scorecard there is. Is because it makes your scores more intricate and more detailed.
Yeah.
Allows you to see how you felt about the round. But yeah, an interesting round in the fact that Ali just really inactive. I think he threw and landed maybe one proper punch. Obviously, he tends to throw out not throw, but keeps his lead left out. Kind of, the stiff arming move. You kind of see it do it quite a bit, especially in his later career. But Leon Spinks showing a lot of good aggression on the inside, good body shots. A clear round for Spinks.
Yep, clear round for me.
And this is another interesting fact as well about, the reasons for the rounds. That could easily be landed the cleaner shots, he's more active. I actually put control the action because I think he fought his fight.
Yeah.
But someone might even say dominated most of the round because Ali barely threw anything back. So, there's so much criteria and the card is so kind of expansive in the way how you it allows you to elaborate on how you see a fight.
Yeah. I mean, I personally picked the on the front foot reason because he came out, he just kept going and going. I know towards the end of the round Ali kind of didn't go back onto the ropes and he was standing his ground a bit, but that was the reason I chose, and that's you've just said 4, 5, 6 different reasons that are valid.
I think about 3/4 of the reasons listed
Yeah.
is reasons that Leon Spinks won. Unless there's a reason you've put in recently that says threw and landed one punch, then maybe I could give it to Ali, but
There's some fantastic flash photography going on as well.
yeah. There's something about the old 70s kind of arenas and 15 rounders, I think. That's always kind of intrigued me. It's just the kind of the lineage and the history of boxing. Kind of fascinated me in a sense. I think probably the first minute's passed so far, Leon definitely more inactive. He came, the first minute, he came out like a bull in a china shop, but a lot slower. And I think he's still only thrown and landed the only punches of the round. Ali's, he's just pushing the jab out.
Yeah.
See Leon just throwing a quick one, just still land the better one. He's tucking in a few body shots. Not a lot of energy on them, but they are scoring shots at the end of the day. Yeah, see that? It just the stiff arm move, it uses it to kind of obfuscate the vision and just kind of frustrate the opponent, but it's not scoring a shot. I mean,
No.
You see Leon right there, just threw the overhand right punished him, and he's obviously talking but,
to someone.
Ali's just crouching and he's taking a few jabs there, and I mean, it's funny because he's actually doing nothing. There's 4 shots there. I know they're not, the clean shots you'd expect from someone, in terms of damaging punches, but they are landing. They'll be the difference in the round.
Yeah.
If you looked at proper clean shots landed, Leon Spinks might be up 15-20, maybe so far. I haven't actually been counting them, but you count all those little jabs and the body shots, and then there's another right hand there.
I'm gonna say maybe 20 might still be a bit generous.
Yeah.
He's throwing out that jab now, but yeah, backing onto the ropes. Spinks has landed a few there, decent shots.
Yeah, decent right hand. I think it's interesting as well is that Ali's, is known for his fast hands and a kind of really beautiful left jab, and this is one of the only rounds, or maybe one of the only fights where he's actually been out jabbed.
Yeah.
And Leon Spinks landed like a counter jab against Muhammad Ali. It shouldn't have been something we'd ever been seeing. Maybe even a few years ago, the Ali of Manila. Like our last really good Ali performance of sorts. Yeah, that's another round. Not as busy from Leon, but Ali's still just plagued in inactivity.
Yeah. You could go more active. I've gone for just landed the cleaner, more effective shots because there were a few sections where Ali kind of tried to do something, and then point jabs just weren't up to much.
I like he's controlling his head, just trying to hold him down and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then just kind of all the vision. Then shot him a counter jab. Ali just giving the first 2 rounds away so far.
Yeah. So into round 3.
What's interesting is that it actually feels like the rounds are passing quite quickly though.
Mhm.
It doesn't feel like there's been kind of 6 minutes so far. There you go. That's the first real time he's committed. On the tip he goes, and then kind of throwing out the jab. I don't think anything's really. Oh, looks like one landed there. Good kind of quick stiff shot, but
He's just looking busier at least, isn't he?
yeah.
Maybe obviously with the age being a factor, maybe he was just taking the first couple of rounds easy, just not to tire himself out. I don't know.
And then switching the other way. This is what was kind of the quintessential Ali though, the kind of lateral movement, the straight shots, and covering up again.
Just been caught up
Spinks
into the.
Is hitting the gloves quite a bit though, and even when he's tucked some of those body ones in, he's still catching a bit of the elbow, so they're not as clean.
Yeah, there's a few getting through the guard around the side of the head here.
Yeah, those ones are, I think, the most effective shots he has landed though. Because those are the ones that are the most unprotected. But
don't know what that was.
Was a bit of the kind of jests and whatnot. I mean, Ali's always talking to people in the ring, isn't he? Though.
Yeah.
There's obviously a really famous moment in the first fight he had with Frazier when Arthur McCarthy splits them both and he tells them both to stop talking. They're just, they're having this tremendous war and apparently they're just berating each other. The Ali, constant talker trying to get under people's skin. Much better round for Ali here. That's a really good left uppercut as well. And he's landed some really good stiff jabs, and even when he's up against the ropes and he's got his guard on, you kind of pointed out that Spinks is not landing them flush. Best around the guard, like you're seeing there, but even the body shots are a bit blocked. So this one's much closer.
It's much closer, but
Ali's in danger of giving it away.
yeah, he is, because dancing around and throwing out the jab is all good and well, but I think these ones where he's leaning, where Spinks is piling on the pressure and landing the good uppercut there. The more telling shots, aren't they? They are the bigger damaging shots.
Yep.
So
that's a nice one on the kind of chin neck area as well. I think as well, Ali just should have looked to clinch here and negate the inside attack.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much you can block, really. You don't want to be taking those shots because they do wear you down. You can't be taking 60 body shots in the first 4 rounds.
I was just gonna say then, like that passage of action there, you just don't see it anymore these days, do you? Someone just with the back on the ropes, just taking shots without anything throwing back. Like I say, you're in danger of the ref actually just jumping in these days. Just say no, you're not throwing anything back, even though nothing devastating was landing. But obviously people would clinch anyway in that position and stop the barrage.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. I think as well it kind of displays, Ali seemed to kind of get away with a lot in the sense that he could put his gloves in front of people's eyes. He could talk to people, he could berate them. He can sit on the ropes. People still, even though they might boo, he is Muhammad Ali. He is the king of the sport. obviously by this point as well, people know he's faded. Obviously, he had some very close decisions, and even a few people think there's quite a few robberies. I think the Jimmy Young fight is usually quoted as the Ali robbery. Ali apparently didn't do enough to win that fight. In the Ernie Shavers fight, obviously very, very close, competitive for a lot of people. I think myself, Shavers won that fight. I tend to be the minority who do describe it as a robbery. I think Shavers definitely did enough, but that's by the by. Another, there's actually interesting. We're saying that that's the first time Ali's properly clinched as well, in the sense that he's kind of, got the underhooks in, and he's turned them around and started to get the combinations going now.
Yeah.
Start to trade. There's a good right hand as well, and he just kind of turned away just to avoid the follow up. So this is better still from Ali.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a bit more. He's catching it with some nice right again there, right cross.
It's an interesting thing as well about sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
But, Ali just kind of controlling with the forearm there, and then just controlling the head with the forearm and then landing the right. Obviously a good little technique from Ali that you kind of see a lot of other people use. You see Floyd Mayweather kind of use the same trick against Ricky Hatton as well. Just control your opponent and distance, and then land it. That right hand, I'm not sure that landed flush, but it was very, very close. Ali just kind of think he just got out of the way in time.
Yeah.
There's a right hand lead. Ali is quintessential using that hand to beat in a combination. Yep, much better win for Ali here.
Definitely. I think Spinks kind of slowed down a bit, but I think he was just a little bit puzzled at times just then. Obviously, we've now reverted back to Ali back on the ropes, and Spinks kind of winging him in a bit.
He's just taken 5 uppercuts on the roll, not all flush, but you can see the punch go through the guard and his head move, and he shouldn't be taking 5 uppercuts on the roll. I think it just goes to show as well that Ali obviously kind of restricted in the sense that he has the chin, he has the toughness to kind of go to the ropes and take punches, but kind of like mitigate them. So take punches, but not fully, but crazy tough. One of the best chins there has ever been. It's ridiculous.
Oh, that's
really.
a great right again.
Yeah. And I think as well as we've seen a bit more.
Fight's broken out.
Is that Ali's obviously known for his reflexes, but we have seen them return a bit here. You've seen Spinks miss with about 3 right hands. Ali just having the classic kind of lean back and just missing and then coming back with the counter. But yeah, I think this is Ali's best round. I think so far it's the round that he's won for me. I think Spinks undoubtedly had his moments like on the ropes there, but
Yeah.
Ali I think has been more consistent, landed some really nice right hands.
Yeah, he's landed a couple of peaches. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 sections where it was back on the ropes, Spinks winding him in. But I think that was a better round for Ali. I think in the grand scheme of things overall, he probably did dictate the round a little bit more for me.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
But it was
another,
still a very close round though.
yeah, definitely competitive. And it's one of those ones where you could say Ali, you could have an argument that he landed the better shots, or you could say he was the effective counter puncher. It's kind of
Yeah.
that's a kind of interesting exchange there, because in real time it looked like some of those punches might have landed, but their defense of both fighters is actually so good, their timing is so kind of on point that they're throwing punches, missing, and then avoiding each other's counters.
Yeah.
For 2 different exchanges, so that is interesting.
So we're on to round 5. We'll do a pause after this one and just have a quick look at our scores. We'll just rattle through them.
Yeah, how much landed so far? I think there was a quick counter jab from Spinks that's really landed so far, but he's kind of been backed up against the rope. He's coming out now, but there's a good right hand, best shot so far. Obviously, Ali having almost a 30-pound weight advantage. If he put some pressure on you, I think anyone's going to feel it.
Yeah.
In a sense. Decent exchange on the inside again. You know, Spinks is just such a naturally aggressive fighter. He just loves to come forward.
Comes
and
forward, doesn't he?
then
Yeah.
wrap you up and just go back to that body. Those uppercuts.
Like you said earlier, nothing like his brother. It's a good jab there.
Yeah, I hadn't realised that Leon Spinks had obviously I kind of, whenever I kind of think of him, I think of him as an aggressive fighter, you know, head movement, kind of, you know, come forward, but really good timing, a crisp jab as well, so you can actually see the amateur pedigree though. This guy is, you know, if you saw his record before the fight and you hadn't heard of him before, you see 6 fights and 1 draw, you know, you think that's ridiculous. How is he challenging for the world heavyweight title? But you can see that he knows what he's doing quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's a decent cut there.
Is that just a bit of kidology then by Ali, I think?
Yeah, another Ali shimmy.
Being told off.
Yeah. You saw the referee there talk about him holding on behind the neck. Obviously, didn't get warned for a lot of that in his career. Did it for you know, kind of a large point, just holding fighters behind the neck, try and lean on them. Obviously, and excessive clinching as well. There was a lot of things that Ali got away with, but as we kind of said before, he was the king of the sport.
Yeah.
And, you know, the heavyweight champion gets away with anything. You know, Ali clinches 100 times. Vladimir Klitschko can, you know, clinch Povetkin 100 times, push him down, hold him behind the neck. It's just a, you know, if you're the A side, you're the A side. It happens.
Yeah. This has been a quieter round for me. There's not been too much. I think Ali's probably doing the better.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's. I don't know. I think I was heading in the 55-45 direction for Ali. I think the clean shots he landed, like the right hand and the left uppercut when Spinks up the ropes, were the best shots. But in terms of activity, it was like ebb and flow. There was obviously points where Leon had his kind of success against the body and the inside, but Ali also managed to come back with his own. So yeah, dare say I think that's the closest round of the fight so far.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just getting my score down and then we will have a look what we've got.
I've actually enjoyed this, despite the first kind of 2-3 rounds being quite one-sided in a sense. It's seemingly quite fast-paced. It seems to be kind of ticking by. So yeah, it's quite intriguing, really.
Okay, I'm just getting the scorecard comparison up. Yeah, okay, so I think, you know, obviously, like what seems to be the usual, we kind of go the similar ways. Not always the same, but pretty similar. So round 1, we both had Spinks winning. You had the wider percentage, as you kind of alluded to during that round. Ali, you know, did pretty much nothing from the majority of that round. So the 75-25, like you said, you know, it does make sense. Because how much can you really give a person that doesn't really throw much? But, you know, true to what you said as well, I don't really go that high when there's not been a knockdown, and that's just the way that I use the percentage based. So we had different percentages, we had different reasons. You suggested that Spinks controlled the action, and I went that he was on the front foot, so both valid. Round 2, same again, 10-9 to Spinks, slightly different percentages. I went 60-40, you went 70-30, and again you went with the Spinks controlling the action. I just suggested he landed the cleaner, more effective shots. I think in that one Ali did throw a bit more, didn't he? But Spinks was he just landed the better shots for me. And then again we got another Spinks round in round 3. You suggested 60-40 and I went a bit more, which is interesting because I don't think usually I do less than you or equal, not the other way around. So that makes a change. I said he was on the front foot, and you suggested he landed the cleaner, more effective shots. And then we had 2 rounds for Ali. Closer rounds than the previous 3. I scored them both 55-45. And you went with 60-40 and 55-45. That 5th round was definitely the closest one. And it was closer than the previous round, so maybe my percentages should have been a little bit different there. But yeah, I think that's the story of the fight so far. There's nothing that's been. I don't think any round could have gone the other way than what we've suggested so far. Both got the same totals then, 47-48 so far after 5 rounds, with slightly different percentages in average. So
what's interesting is that not my L's between them though. I have 58-42 to 56-44, so even the percentages are close. So,
yeah,
as you're kind of saying there, it's not been the hardest fight to score really.
not so far. I don't think so. Let's continue.
I think what's interesting as well, just since we've been doing these streams in terms of kind of watching the fight on stream, scoring it properly, discussing the scorecards, is that we've never really, I think, disagreed too much, if at all, on the kind of scores though. We've often had very similar rounds and percentages. Only, even if we have disagreed on a few rounds that we have, I think often we've both said they were close, 55, 45s, maybe even 50-50s. So
there's not yet been a single round where you've gone, oh no, he's definitely won, and I've gone, nah, what are you watching? It's gone the other way.
Which I think is interesting in the fact that, obviously, if you were looking on Twitter or a boxing forum, you'd probably see it more often than not. So it does make you think, if we sit down and concentrate on the fight and commentate it ourselves, in a sense, we're not really watching it wrong. We've got 2 guys who are both knowledgeable at the sport, and we often see it the same. So basically, my endorsement is just use fight scores and watch the fights properly. Score fights correctly.
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting if there's some kind of experiment where we got 3 officials, judges, by trade, to sit in a room and discuss it like we do, while there's an actual event going on with obviously the 3 ringside judges going just in their own minds. And I'd imagine that if there was like 3 people watching and discussing it, they'd kind of come to the same agreement. You know what I mean? I think they would kind of convince each other of the actual narrative of the round.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there'd be a lot more consensus. Just talking about the first half of the round here, Ali, I think, has been kind of bouncing the quickest he has been before.
Yeah.
Skipping around the ring, landing some good shots. I think Spinks, though, has really landed some of the more significant shots of the round. He landed some good ones on the inside in an exchange earlier.
Yeah, Ali seems to be bumped more back to his round 3 phase, where he's bouncing, he's pouring out the jab, and then he kind of has a little bit of a break and goes back to the ropes. But I don't think Spinks has been quite as come forward or quite as busy. He might be tiring slightly. Ali just did some good counter shot.
Yeah, just a really excellently timed right hand. I think this is also an interesting kind of make or break point in the fight. The fact that Spinks is coming out, because I think he probably knows he's lost the last 2 rounds. So it's 3-2 after 5, obviously, then 6. That's kind of turning point in the fight, whether he gets a 4-2 lead and probably follows that, or whether Ali makes the fight a draw, and then it's even more up for grabs. I suppose there's a certain psychological factor about making sure you're always ahead.
Yeah.
I think he has come out with a bit more fire. I think you said not as dominant as Ali has been landing the counter rights, but I think Spinks has just been too busy for him, so far at least. There's the counter jab again, and then Ali backing up to the ropes.
Yeah,
He lets Spinks get on the inside.
yeah.
He's giving that away.
I think he's given it away. I think if it had continued kind of moving around a bit and then getting the odd counter shot, they were the more telling shots for me. Could have won in the round, but I just don't think he did it enough. I think he's
I'm in
let.
full agreement. Yeah, I think Spinks was just more active.
Yeah, more activities. He let him smother him again.
I think the interesting thing is that Ali's kind of 2-3 counter rights, with the kind of the judges back in the day, that's what would have won him the round though. Obviously, I don't know the exact scorecards, but rounds like this would have played out in similar Ali fights, and he definitely would have been awarded the decision. As long as he landed the right hand or two,
Yeah.
and it captured the judge's eyes, it just gave him a reason to score on the round.
Back to that A side.
Yeah.
He's the king of the sport.
Exactly. It's like if Canelo boxed this way and he just moved and whatnot. As long as he landed a 1-2 and a good left hook, he's getting the round. Yeah, Ali immediately backing up to the corner, just conceding ground. Just trying to mitigate the superior strength. Well, not the superior strength, just the kind of conditioning and the kind of ferocity of Leon Spinks, because he is by nature an inside fighter. He wants to come forward, he's looking to land to the body. Ali can just maybe tire him out for a bit and then move around, avoid the shots, pick his spots. Because he's having to do this, because he obviously has to be set. He has a lot of miles on the clock.
Yeah.
Decent jab there. Hit a range.
Yeah, once he's at this kind of range, Spinks doesn't really know what to do. He needs to kind of rush him back to the ropes, doesn't he? To then start landing his own shots. But it's whether Ali can, bounce around like this at this stage of his career. Keep it up.
See, Spinks obviously using the head movement, obviously avoiding a lot of the kind of quick jabs and whatnot. You see him obviously, using foot feints, using his own jab, try and back Ali up, but it's also a case of Ali just kind of voluntarily does so, which obviously we have seen before in the Rumble, the Jungle, and whatnot. But it is, as we've mentioned before, he is getting hit with shots to head and body, and he's conceding rounds, but he just traded there, which was quite nice. But it landed again.
Yeah, you see that bit in the corner there has possibly mitigated everything good that he'd done prior to it.
Yeah, it was a decent head movement from Leon Spinks.
Yeah, it was.
And there was a really nice counter jab, and there's a right.
Great right there by.
Yeah. There's a good left from Spinks. I think that's probably the best jab he's landed so far. Yeah, I think that spurred Ali on a bit.
Yeah.
Spinks wants to trade as well.
And then we go back into the corner, covers up a bit.
This round has been quite ebb and flow, because we obviously commentate the action though, but we can't necessarily have notes. We have to speak about it live and whatnot. So it's hard to always remember what happened in the first minute as well.
Yeah.
What I can obviously recall, both guys have landed decent shots, and it's not like any fighters controlled the action. Both have had their moments.
Yep.
I think Ali's kind of taken it in this last minute. Spinks is given, but yeah, there's a really nice head movement. Ali landing the full counter right hands, and there's another one.
Oh, another good
it's also
exchange.
worth noting as well that, as we kind of mentioned, Ali almost a 30 pound weight advantage, so those right hands are effective. But I think
that was the closest round, definitely so far. I think Ali shaded it. But I think that is as closest to a 10-10 round as it could get. I would not be too disappointed if someone scored that 10-all. I know you don't like 10-10 scores. I think
Ali. I think you said that it was so competitive because Ali. I think Spinks was busier for the first half. But I think Ali kind of took it in the last minute because I think his head movement was a bit better in terms of defense. He seemed to just slip a lot of the right hands, although he was eating the jab straight, but I think he came back with his own right hand. I
Yeah.
think his right hands were the best shots of the round, which is
That's
very
interesting.
much as I'm going 55-45.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said more of like a defensive victory than anything, and that's I've gone for effective counterpunching as the reason, which it's not necessarily a defensive reason, but it kind of shows that he was taking a barrage of shots, but he mitigated it with his own offense.
I think as well, I think good defensive work is a strange one, because you see Ali take up against the ropes, taking these shots and taking those stiff jabs, but compare that to the damage mitigation, or how many he's taken on the arms and the elbows, and how many right hands are missing with his head movement, right? Now he's probably making Spinks miss 65, maybe 70% of his actual shots he's throwing. So compare that to Spinks' aggression though, and it is a valid reason. That actually might be the difference in the round. Obviously, in the last case, the counter right hands are effective, and the right hands are effective. So there's other reasons, but
Yeah.
You can appreciate that. I think Ali has. I was going to say, sorry, not Ali. I think Spinks has landed some really, really good jabs in this round. I think it's because Ali, when he's going back in straight lines, is that Spinks just doubles and trebles the jab,
Yeah,
so he can just follow him back.
good uppercut as well there.
And Ali's landed a few decent shots himself this round, but Spinks has, I think, outlanded them in jabs, and those jabs do hurt. I mean, I think obviously they can look at a guy 6'0" but then go, well, if a guy who's 197 pounds, some 14 stone is throwing stiff jabs like the thing. You could be Ali, you could eat Foreman shots, but those are not good for you. You don't want to be taking 10 of those, let alone 50.
Yeah.
I think Spinks is outworking him here. I think Ali needs to
Yes.
step on those right hands in the last kind of minute here.
We're in this range where I was saying that earlier that Spinks struggles at, but it's now he's actually avoiding all of them shots that Ali is throwing out, so he's making him just miss, and then he's landing his own jabs and counter shots. So
yeah, it's a kind of good point you bring up, that obviously as a 10-1 underdog, I think Spinks' actual technical ability would have been underestimated. Now obviously Ali's past it, but he's still got some hand speed there. He's still throwing land in those jabs, so he still had some boxing skill, but in the sense that you're throwing and landing good counters, and it's the head movement as well, to make him miss. He's got his timing, so those are all staples of a very good, well-skilled boxer. But just as the round ends there, that's Spinks round for me.
Yeah.
Taking a bit more control there, much more active.
yeah, there's a few reasons you could go there. I think he's controlled it, to be honest. I know Ali was he was bouncing around and throwing out that jab, which you could suggest was him controlling things, and Spinks was more countering, but it just seemed like Spinks knew exactly what Ali was doing, and he just mitigated it and landed his own better shots.
Yeah, that's
Good
fair.
round.
I mean, at the end of the day, if you're controlling the action, is have you significantly outboxed your opponent in that round? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Ali has been out jabbed maybe 2 or 3 to 1, and Spinks still had time to land a few shots on the inside here and there. So
Yeah.
I don't think you can complain about that.
Yeah, and like I said, halfway through that round or so, there was a section where Ali he threw out 5, 6, 7 jabs that Spinks just moved out the way of all of them. He ducked them, he dodged them, and then he threw back himself. And yeah, I thought that was quite a wide round. Enjoying it so far.
Yeah, decent fight. Good left hook there. I think Spinks has really favoured the hooks to the body and the kind of jab and the overhand right to the head, but
He's really winging them and shots in now.
Ali's eardrum has been ruptured.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 solid right hooks around the guard there. is when you watch those, like, you know, the real shots sneak behind the guard towards the neck region. When you watch it, you can actually, like, almost like you can see the pain though. It's nasty stuff.
Yeah. And they were fully blooded. You could see him wind it up, couldn't you? Twist it in.
Yeah.
Oh, big wild uppercut miss there.
Yeah, he was swinging for the fences there. And there's, yeah, just kind of positioning against the ropes to score his uppercut. I think as well that Spinks is just, they're not the most powerful shots. You can see it at times, especially on the inside, and like the uppercuts through the guard, but they are scoring. He's got some quickness on it, so Spinks' activity and his pace is probably what's winning him the fight so far, I think.
Yeah, and I think this one he's just simply being more active, isn't he? I mean, he's thrown more, he's landed more. Ali's just kind of doing the jab. He looks a bit knackered at the moment.
Yep. Roll that right hand away. But, yep. Playing a lot more defensive here, and he's not able to really score with the shots. There's a right hand lead from Spinks as well. Spinks has rolled the right hand counter and then scored with his own one.
Oh, that's a good uppercut. Yeah, beautiful.
I mean, he would need to, I think, maybe, you know, to stagger Spinks or maybe score a knockdown to kind of even out this round.
Yeah.
Sorry, win the round rather.
Yeah. Or like follow up with that nice right that he just landed. You know, another flurry of stuff just to dominate a section rather than a single telling shot.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great left.
It's just a few pot shots though. You know, it's making the round competitive in terms of our percentages. He just taps him at the end of it there. But yeah, it's too little too late.
Yeah, it was literally the last 5-7 seconds of the round, wasn't it? So. Yeah. So we're on to round 10 next, and then we will have another recap of our scores.
Yep, I think we were. Well, I was kind of saying earlier on as well that sometimes you know fights will kind of happen in peaks. Obviously, we're kind of coming towards the kind of final stages of the fight. You know, this is the end of this after round 10 ends. This will be the end of the kind of second third of the fight, and I think everyone must have thought Spinks is ahead here. He's just been much busier, so this is the point where Joe Dundee in the corner must have been telling Ali, you've got to win this round. You need to get back in this fight. Because obviously Spinks is starting to come away with it. And he's just done that. Look at that combination there. All right uppercut and left hooks. You know, 5-6 solid good shots there. He's really admiring the trade here. And then another uppercut, and then he blocks the right hand dip. I mean, really success from Ali there. Just excellent timing on the shots.
Yeah.
You see him try to prop up the head, not able to score, and then another left hook. Ali's favoured the left hook now, so they must have seen something.
It's a bit of a weird thrown right hand he was sticking in there. It didn't kind of look very good, but landed.
On a side note about that, Eddie Futch always said that Ali couldn't throw a proper right uppercut, which is why he had Joe Frazier always throw the left hook to counter as soon as he saw Ali starting to drop his hand to throw the uppercut. Actually how he knocks him down and scores repeatedly with it. Which always strikes you strange because obviously Eddie Futch is one of the great trainers, but there he is talking about Muhammad Ali, who a lot of people consider to be the best heavyweight and one of the best boxers of all time. Couldn't even throw a proper one. It's just peculiar, but you know, he had a distinct style and he got away with it.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
Well, that was interesting. They spent like a minute stood in the same spot. and Spinks didn't really land much, and Ali just kind of jabbed away at him.
Yeah, I think this might be Ali's best round so far because he's been more active.
Yeah.
He landed the jab, he landed the power shots as well, and combinations. Ali's landed, what, 5 solid jabs in that exchange there in the last kind of 15 seconds? Spinks had no answer for him. And I think Ali's been in such control of that first half. That's gonna it would take Spinks maybe that kind of, as we were saying, to hurt him or knock him down to really even it out.
Oh, trying, just winged in a wild right. It's just trying it, but
Ali's head movement and his reflexes should not have been as good, at this age.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that right hand he came back when he backed up against the ropes and he kind of hit that right hand. The Spinks came in. That was one of the best shots I think he landed in the round so far. Yeah, I mean, just to reference what I was saying at the start of the round about having to come back and make sure you can make sure you still got a foot in the fight. Well, Ali did it there.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
Was a great round.
Definitely.
I might even argue that might be his version, the round where he controlled the action, but landed the cleaner punches. The effective counter puncher, more active. We said this before, but about half the criteria.
Half of it.
To him.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely his best round for me.
Do you want to look at the scorecards now?
Yep, I just realised that we're heading into 11, so I'll just give a pause. And a refresh. There we go. The card should be coming up in a second. We scored up to round 5, so round 6 looks like we've got the same. It's got a green box around it. So we gave Spinks the round 10-9, 60-40, more active. We have a different of opinion in round 7. Or did
I think we said as well after we scored that that was the round that could have been a 10-10, and it was the first real round that was struggling badly to split them. Really good round.
Yeah, alright, so you went with Ali and I went with Spinks, yes, so that was the one where I gave him the effective counter-punching reason. And you gave Ali the round, again, razor tight, and he was landed the cleaner and more effective shots, which, as we said at the time, it was a very, very, very close round, so it's how you see it. Do them reasons counterbalance? Possibly, I'm not too sure.
It's one of those things I think where Spinks could land 12 solid counter jabs, and Ali might land 5 solid right hands.
Yeah.
You have to try and balance out not only who's the better boxer in position, but also the relative strength of the shots. Obviously, Spinks, probably the slightly a busier guy. Obviously boxing well in his own right, but Ali obviously using the defense and landing probably, for my regard, the more effective shot. So, I've kind of said it's 50-50.
Yeah.
You can split it down the line and you can try and see which way it goes.
Yeah, cool. It's good when we have a difference. That's good. So round 8, we had similar. It looks like both scored it for Spinks, both with the same percentages and just a different reason there. So I thought Spinks controlled the action. You gave him a more active reason. Next round we were both the same, exactly. 10-9 Spinks, 60-40, and he was definitely the more active of that round. And then the last round that we just scored 10 was clear for Ali, 10-9. I gave it 65-35, which is quite, a big spread for me when there's not been a knockdown, and you've obviously gone 75-25. So it just kind of shows that was definitely his best round so far. So we've got slightly different scores now. Totals, I've got it 93-97. You've got 94-96, so slightly closer a closer fight for you. But then percentages are still very close. 44.5% for me for Ali, and you've got just 1% more, and same for Spinks. So, they tally up about right. Cool, so let's get the final 5 rounds.
I think whilst we're in the corner here, the most interesting point is that our percentages are close, but obviously Spinks ahead. I've got 6-4. You've got it 7-3.
Yep.
So it's competitive, but the difference is Spinks is the one who's running the rounds.
Yep. So we've got a fast start. Can hear some of them shots.
Yeah, tucking them just right behind the elbows.
Quite interesting. You can hear a lot. Was this maybe a smaller venue? I mean, you can hear like individual people shouting out, and
it was at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I'm not exactly sure what the capacity was, but oh wait, nope. I'll try and look up at the end of the round. Oh no, it was 5,298 people, sellout crowd.
That's not a lot, is it?
No. Josh Taylor will probably fight in front of more people in a week's time.
That's a good shot by Spinks, getting him back onto the ropes. How are you seeing it so far? Probably about halfway through.
Yeah, it's a kind of return to form for Spinks in the fact that Ali was so dominant in the last round, but he's been pushing forward behind the left hand, and then just as soon as you get close, pushing Ali to the ropes, switching the attack to head and body. It's more classic round, and you pointed this out earlier. Really good head movement, just kind of taking away, just enough damage, parrying, dipping, ducking, doing what he has to do to try and take away the jab.
Yeah.
But much busier, and another round that Ali is in danger of just being inactive and losing.
Yeah, looks like it. Again, forcing back to the ropes just then, and a few uppercuts getting through a bit more than earlier.
I think it's interesting as well, obviously, so far I think, as we discussed, Spinks is doing enough to kind of take this round, but we've seen it quite similar, but if people back in the day were seeing it, like we were seeing it, they must be in kind of worry territory, because, if you gave Spinks this round, he'd be 8 rounds up, he'd already have the title in the bag. For me, I think, I'd have him 7 rounds up, so he's in their territory as well. He's undeniably ahead, and he's almost there to have enough rounds in the bag that basically he could just run and win it. So, wonder what people back in the day were thinking. This has been a nice comeback from Ali, though, in the last minute here.
That was a nice little exchange.
Oh, he missed the range there, though. Okay, that was a decent slugfest, but I think Ali left it too late, because Spinks landed something that exchanged there, and it worked in the first kind of half of the round.
And I know we shouldn't say it, but we said it before, where people like to try and just win the last few seconds of the fight, and potentially after that little flurry of exchanges, Spinks just then landed a final one right before the bell, and that could have been the difference in scoring that.
It's a good point, actually, and it's probably more of a technical decision on Ali's part. Obviously, Angel Dundee used to tell that to fighters quite a bit. He did it with Sugar Ray Leonard against Hagler as well. So, fighters, you've heard this said before, fighters have a body clock. So, wouldn't be surprised if he knew to save his energy for the last minute and try and steal the rounds. But it may work for these judges, but obviously we're trying to be good judges, partial. So, we won't ignore the first 2 minutes where Spinks it worked and did enough to take the round for me.
Yeah, I gave Spinks the round as well.
This is round 12 here, again, to see how it turns out if it was a 12-round fight. decent left hook there as a lead from Ali, but
Yeah.
taking about 5 or 6 jabs. I think what's interesting as well that Ali has some foot speed to use, his lateral movement, but he seems to have reflexes to avoid the right hand, but he just takes all the jabs flush. I don't think I've seen him slip a jab in the fight so far.
No.
Like in terms of actual head movement, I don't think I've seen it. Where we see, the 60s Ali, obviously one of the quickest fighters of all time, some of the greatest reflexes, obviously would have been much more eager to get out of the way, but
Yeah.
seemingly just relying on his chin
At this
to take the
stage,
shots
yeah.
and then come back. Yeah.
He's having a better round. He's more busy. He's more accurate. Spinks
Yeah.
isn't really as successful.
Yeah, he's had that quiet spree in the round now, and then he just let Ali score a combination,
Yeah.
which were probably the best shots of the round. People do like power shots, left hooks, right uppercuts, whatnot. And he's starting to land the jab now as well, and Spinks just needs to be a lot more busier.
Good.
And Ali kind of holding on the inside just to avoid the work on his toes now. This is the right hand. Yeah, I think Ali taking lead for me in the round a bit now. Oh, he gets hit the shots there.
Yeah, it's the shots that Spinks does land look better, the more powerful, but in this round is the few and far between. It's definitely Ali is definitely controlling this one. Oh, he's just landed a good one too there, and another one.
And Spinks has tried
Still
3
throwing.
4 right hands and missed all of them, or
Yeah.
been parried with them. Yep.
And another 1 and 2 inside there by Ali.
This is the great kind of boxing, the fact that he's just picked the spots, Ali. He didn't have to be active for the whole round, he just needs to land at the right times, and that's enough.
Well, I'm not sure if it's just that Spinks has slowed down in this round, but it seems like why couldn't Ali have done this in previous rounds? It looks like he just does the measure of him. Maybe it was because Spinks was a little bit slower, not coming forward and marauding him into the corner.
Yeah.
I think that's Ali's best round since.
Yeah, I think since the only one in 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting fact for you that I got from the book about the Spinks brothers is that apparently in the corner here, Leon Spinks' trainer gives him a bottle, tells him to spit out his water, and gives him a bottle to drink from. And apparently in his last championship rounds here, will be the judge of it. He comes out very aggressive despite being quite tired in that last round. And it's not known to this day what was in that bottle, but apparently his cut man, a man by the name of Milt Bailey, said he used to mix drinks like water combined with ammonia and peppermint schnapps. So certain things to kind of get the cardiovasculars working again. So it's a bit of the Aaron Pryor type thing, but it'll be interesting to see how revitalised Spinks is in these next few rounds after getting
do like a bit of conspiracy.
Yeah. It's not apparently not the most legal of drinks to bring in, but we'll see.
Well, he certainly started the better, but he did just take the last round off in my book. He didn't really do as much as he previously done in the fight, but he's dancing around.
Maybe that juice was taking a few minutes to take hold. There's a good stiff jab there. Just whilst we're watching here, after 12 rounds, apparently the scorecards were 114, 114, 6 rounds to 6.
Really?
7-5. The other judge had it 7-5 for Spinks, and the other judge had it 8-4 for Ali. So, it would have been a split draw if it was a 12-round fight.
It's quite interesting. Not sure how they've got that, but that's what we're here for.
I think 6-6 a draw is generous. 8 for Ali is playing corruption.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, like, that's an Adelaide Bird Canelo card.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Ali looks so much more tired this round, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I heard the commentary mention it. Ali was blowing a little bit earlier.
I don't think Spinks.
Oh.
I think Spinks basically landed the jabs there is really the difference. He's not really landed much in terms of power shots. It's just he's just been busier behind the left jab.
It's a long time since we've seen Ali hit with a real novice punch like that. He saw it coming, couldn't do anything about it. I think that tells the story.
Yeah, he's just backing off. He's looking tired. I mean, like I say, Spinks is he's coming forward and throwing, but he's nothing major's landing. I won't say he's miles ahead. It's just busier, isn't he?
Yeah, 2 decent right hands. I think this is like Spinks, on the front foot, being active, and even arguably landing the cleaner shot, and still basically winning the round like 55-45, or maybe a push. I could maybe see a 60-40.
60-40, I'd say.
Active, but,
Yeah.
you know, he just did enough there. I'm gonna say 60-40 more active,
60-40, yeah.
because Ali. It's weird. I mean, he moves around. He's showing he's got enough defense to, block some of the shots, but it's just Spinks kind of almost winning by default.
Looking very tired in the corner there, Ali. He's stood up. He's not gone down, but he's slumped in the corner, and he kind of did a little bit of a stagger on the way back there. So we got the last two rounds to go.
Yeah, I think just speaking kind of generally here, I'd be shocked if anyone had Ali ahead. I think Spinks was definitely won the majority of the rounds.
Definitely. You know, we talk our way through these. Maybe we can convince each other as we're saying stuff, but it's hard to imagine it any other way, even if we was watching it individually, not talking and just scoring the round.
Yeah. Yeah, I think ultimately we'd come to very similar scorecards. We might maybe differ on 1 or 2 of the rounds, but Spinks has just been busier. That's the statement of the fight. Ali has not thrown enough punches to win. Or draw, I don't think.
No.
If you remember, Ali came back in the last round against Shavers and more than stayed the championship because he actually was ahead then.
Yeah, Ali almost toes again, trying to throw out that jab. Spinks actually using a bit more of that waist movement. We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
There's a good right hand.
Good right hand there, yeah.
Better say it maybe took a round for that drink he had to take a bit of effect, because the waist movement's come back, and he's trying to bulldoze a bit more on the inside. I think Spinks needs to be a bit more busy here, because even though Ali's just sticking at the jab, we can see it doesn't land, but ringside judges and people ringside, they'll see a guy throw 10 shots that'll hit gloves and they'll score about 5 of them.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing about it.
I mean, currently this is what you prefer for me. I think there's an argument so far that you could award this to either guy. Ali's obviously kind of controlling it with the jab, but then when Spinks does come forward, he does land a few.
Yeah, I think it's Ali's been busier, but I think Spinks has actually landed the better shots. He landed a decent right hand at the start of the round, but he should be more busy here. He should be. Oh, there's another good right hand.
Just caught him again there.
Try to make sure he maintains that lead, but he should be busier. He should be making sure that he outlands Ali in the exchanges. He makes them
that was
make sure. And there's as you said, another uppercut.
I'm just going back there. This is the first time I've seen the ref actually splitting them up properly.
And there's that's his brother.
There's his brother.
Michael trying to cheer him on. And there's Spinks now landed about 4 or 5 good right hands. I think he's basically stole the round for me.
Ali's just now stopped, and he's not moving around. He's on
squared
the
himself
ropes.
against the ropes. He's tired his legs out, and he's taking shots. And now,
Oh, he just
now's
landed a
leg
good
kick.
one.
I think he basically, when he tires out his legs, he has to go against the ropes to maintain his
Yeah.
stature, and
Stay
then
upright.
he needs to basically slug it out and make sure he doesn't get out punched. He landed some good shots there, but it's another round.
He's just been busy.
Spinks, I thought, landed the better shot so far, even though Ali's doing wow.
Trying to win the end there.
Yeah.
I don't think he did though. I think Spinks has won that one again.
That was some ferocious fighting in the last 30
Last
seconds.
30
So I think
seconds
Ali
was good.
really tried to steal it, but yeah, Spinks just with the harder shots. I thought, Ali made it close though. There were some really nice left hooks he landed there.
So 15th and final round.
Wow, just managed to get in the head out in time, just to kind of almost graze the chin.
Just, yeah. So close. So going into the final round, I've got Spinks way ahead now, 10 rounds to 4. 136, 130.
Yeah, obviously with the one round we disagreed on, I've got it 135 to 131, 9 rounds to 5. So yeah, Spinks, I think undeniably, significantly ahead. Ali would need. I mean, he wouldn't even win on my scorecard on a 10-point loss with 3 knockdowns. He would need the knockout to win.
Yeah. Now Spinks has come out as if he needs a knockout. He wants to finish strong.
All 3 judges gave Spinks the last rounds 13 and 14 as well, which means Ali is ahead by 2 points, and Spinks is ahead by 2 points on one, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other judge has him, Spinks a few points ahead as well now. So yeah, Ali was for the actual official judges who had it closer than us on all accounts. Needed a few knockdowns to try and retain the title here, but he's backed Spinks up and
Yeah, he's
taken 4 shots to the head.
he's just come back though.
Yeah, he's given as well as he's taken.
Great
Oh,
last
that's a
round.
nice right
Oh,
hand.
nice.
You heard the commentators mention there, Ali's kind of hard. He always goes out in the 15 round like he did against Shavers, comes back with the combinations, tries to hurt his man.
He's
Oh.
just sagged at the end.
Yeah, I think that shot is hurt him a bit as well.
Oh, and again another one.
And it's just squared up there. Yeah, unbelievable heart here as well.
This is must be one of the best heavyweight rounds.
Yeah, another right hand lead. I mean, this is just an absolute slugfest.
That's a lot.
You know.
I mean, how
It
do you
was-
score it?
Yeah. Honestly, whoever lands the last few best shots.
Oh,
Although,
you should have connected
If
with that
anything,
one.
I might give it to. I might be leading Spinks in terms of. I think the shots he landed seemed to trouble Ali a bit.
Yeah,
more.
I think overall effect, Spinks has been caught, but he's still coming forward and throwing. That was ridiculous. And there's been
No.
one or two shots there where Ali's felt it, and his head sagged down, his arms have stopped, and he's clearly felt it.
And I know we kind of mentioned it earlier, but still, it's a 14-stone guy. After 14 rounds of
Rip.
action, hitting you with everything he's got, and Ali's still on his feet. That's a chin, alright. I mean, you hit it on the head. One of the great heavyweight rounds, and there, Spinks' team get in, and I think they know he's done it.
Yep, they're celebrating. I'm just going to quickly pause because I'm getting a warning about copyright, which is interesting. So let me just pause. We'll have a recap of our scorecards. And hopefully that warning might go away. You still with me, Kaiser?
Yeah, I'm still here. Just completing the card.
Yeah, I've just realised that I've refreshed my card by accident before I scored that final round. But fear not, because you can still access your scorecards. If I just go to my scorecards section. People might not know about this, but yeah, if you click on my scores and you've got an incomplete scorecard, you can click it and you're back to it.
Yep. For all the people who accidentally delete your scorecards, fret not. You have the perfect service for you.
Hey, not if they delete it. If they delete it, it's gone. There's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah, don't hit the trash can. If you accidentally click out the tab, you should be fine.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a tough round to score.
Interesting as well that obviously we kind of said in the competitive round, but Spinks kind of landing the more effective shots in terms of Ali kind of seemingly being stunned, but Ali landed got a lot of good shots there as well, and all three judges gave Spinks the round. So,
That's interesting.
Even the judge who had Ali up 8-4 after 12, I would have thought maybe he'd have scored it for Ali, but even he didn't. What strange.
All right.
Set of cards.
Okay, so let's have a look then. Round 11, we're on the side-by-side scorecard comparison. We both scored that one to Spinks. I've decided that in future I'm going to start using the comments section as well, just for a reminder when we go back, because it's hard to remember the rounds and what happened. So you gave it more active, 60-40. I gave it landed a cleaner, more effective shots. Close round again, 45-65. 45-55, sorry. I can't really recall what happened in round 11. It was too long ago. We'll move on. Round 12, we got Ali winning. Different scores, but it was a convincing round, 70-30 for me. Again, I've gone higher than you. That was from memory, yeah. We said that was definitely Ali's best, most convincing round at the time.
Yeah, Spinks was kind of slowed down, and Ali was coming back with all the effective shots, the right hands, and the left hooks and whatnot.
Yep. The 13th round, we both, you said at the very end, you gave Spinks 60-40 more active, and I was just in agreement with that, so we both got the exact same score there. Next two rounds, we also gave to Spinks. We both said he landed the cleaner, more effective shots in round 14. And in that last round, again, 10-9 to Spinks. You might have done the percentage the wrong way around there. You put 55 for Ali instead of Spinks, so I guess
you've got 55 for Ali.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that's me. I've done it the wrong way around.
No, so yeah, we still agreed.
We still agreed.
It's 55-45 for Spinks, though. I think, as your reason kind of said, you had the opponent in trouble with effective shots. That was the difference, though. When he hit Ali flush, though, Ali seemed to kind of just stop in his tracks and need a few seconds to recover.
Yeah, and really, I've used that kind of as a different to how I normally would, because when you have the opponent in trouble, it is more that they were actually wobbled around, maybe held up on the ropes, or they managed to cling on and survive instead of going down. So I generally wouldn't use that, but that was the differentiator that we effectively spoke about in that round. That it wasn't in trouble per se, but those shots were definitely more effective. So I guess that's where your reasoning comes in. It just seemed like it troubled him very slightly rather than having him in proper trouble, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's Amir Khan kind of trying to kind of use your legs when you're wobbling, try and get away. But Ali was hurt by those shots. You could see it. He needed a few seconds to kind of recover.
Yeah. So what I'll do now is I'll just keep the sound going while we listen to the scores. I just won't put the video back onto the stream just so we don't run into any more issues. Hopefully they're not going to take too long to announce this card.
Interestingly enough, whilst we're waiting the official decision rather, obviously I have it 10-5, you have it 11-4, so Spinks convincingly. The Associated Press, presumably ringside, had Ali winning 8-7. So what the fuck were they watching?
8-7.
Yeah. Like, that is an absolute joke scorecard.
Yeah, there's no way.
And this is like the Ali mythos, though. Like these types of scorecards came up much more often than you would think. 8-7. Imagine if Twitter was around back then; they'd have been absolutely destroyed in the comments. Like, honestly, you can imagine it though.
Split decision.
See, if you heard split decision, everyone there must have been thinking Spinks is getting robbed.
Yep.
Adelaide Bird has it.
143, 142, Ali.
143, 142.
Artillery, 143, 142. The same card as the AP 8-7 Ali.
145, 140.
That's more reasonable.
Yeah, Lou Talbot has my card 10-5 for Spinks.
144, 141. The new.
There it is, and the new 9-6 for Spinks, the final card. Even then, I think that's quite close, but
Yeah.
Nevertheless.
There's some great celebrations there. So many people in the ring as well. Jesus.
Yeah. There you go. The greatest upset in history. I think Ali versus Foreman was a 4-1 underdog. Ali versus Sonny Liston the first time was 7-1, where no one gave him a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a massive, monumental upset there. I mean, I think that 10-1, that must be in terms of what. Trying to think of. We've had quite a few upsets recently, but Marie's kind of Joshua. I think maybe Kid Galahad's lost to Kiko Martinez, probably in the 10-1 range. So, it is really the unthinkable. Those types of odds.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating fight, and I think we said Ali's is past it. It was clear, but not to overshadow, it was a good performance by Spinks. He boxed quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do like the controversial fights and decisions, especially. The whole purpose of Fight Night Scores is to really focus on scoring boxing matches and make things a bit more clearer. You give reasons, you give percentages, just to make it more transparent. And I think throughout the history of boxing, there's always been these controversial decisions. This scoring system wouldn't alleviate a bad judge or a corrupt judge, I guess, if you want to go there. But it should, it gives fight fans more insight into what someone is seeing in a boxing match, and it goes some way to explaining, why they came up with a score. But yeah, that was a really good fight. It'd be interesting to see more of Ali's stuff and Spinks' stuff in live streams in the future, I think. These had a few other fights as well, didn't they?
Just one rematch.
Rematch, yeah.
Ali became the first 3-time champion, and then the careers after that were just on the downhill. Obviously, Ali had 2 terrible fights way past it against Holmes and Burbick, and then Spinks was never the same. after either too much party lifestyle and went on far too long himself.
All right, well, it's been another brilliant fight to watch. Not too sure what we'll do next up. We'll have a think about it and come up with another good fight to go with next time. And we will announce that probably on Twitter more ahead of time than we have done recently. I think we need to promote the streams more actively on Twitter, and we'll be doing that. So just before we finish up, we've been going for a good while now. We'll just have 5 more minutes just to discuss the upcoming fixtures, I guess you could call them. I don't think there is too much of significance coming up. I've just got box rec up, and we touched on the fight next week between Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall before. It's not letting me have a look without logging in first. Just give me a second. Right, we're back in. We are back in. So a quick prediction. I think everyone's going to pick Taylor to beat Jack Catterall next week. Decent 26-0 unbeaten. He's been around for quite a while. He's been waiting a long time for his shot at a world title. But I think we've touched on it before. We think he's probably a little bit overmatched for Josh Taylor. Is that how you see it?
Yeah. In terms of a specific prediction, I think Josh Taylor in the first 6 rounds.
Okay.
He's going to be too busy. He's a legitimate power puncher as well. He works the body. I don't think Jack is going to have much for him apart from, the southpaw stance. Maybe giving Josh Taylor something to think about in the first 2 rounds. But I think Josh will put it together, and I think round kind of 5-6 he'll take him out.
Yeah. I'd probably go along with that, to be fair. Just having a look at Jack Catterall's stats, he's a bit shorter as well. According to BoxRec anyway, it's never fully reliable. And he's obviously he's been inactive, hasn't he? And he's not really fought anyone of significance since, I guess, O'Hara Davis, if you can even call O'Hara Davis significant. That was back in 2018, and he's had a couple of, I guess, just keep him busy fights for the last couple of years while he's been waiting for a title shot. One of them where he's got rankings with one of the 8 alphabet bodies, and he's just been waiting around, hasn't he, for his shot while the Super series was going on, and then Josh Taylor's had a couple of fights and unifications and stuff like that. I think it's just the levels are going to show, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing for me, last thing I'll kind of say on it, is I think this will be Josh Taylor's second fight under Ben Davison, or maybe his third.
Okay.
I think the one major one obviously was the Ramirez unification, but it'll be interesting to see how he approaches this, and the fact that with Ramirez he seemed to kind of box in the back foot, a bit more lateral movement, kind of pot shots, counters and whatnot. I wonder if that's the fact, just because Ramirez is such a prone inside fighter, that they thought it would be better just to specialise on the outside when they'd have the advantage, because Josh Taylor can fight inside. You saw it against Prograis. He loves to tear up, there's no doubt about it. It'll be interesting to see what he does here, whether he goes search and destroy, whether he tries to kind of box from the outside, pick his shots more. Because obviously Ben Davison, when he had Tyson Fury, when he fought Deontay Wilder, they weren't aggressive, they were back foot defensive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of Ben Davison's style. He likes the outside, he likes it, from just straight punches and whatnot. So I think it'll be an interesting takeaway to see how Josh Taylor kind of handles him and what he's fighting like now.
Yeah, guess so. Let's move on, because I don't think there's anything significant on the undercard of that either worth even going on about. We just before we came onto the stream, we was having a quick look and noticed that Laura Nicole is fighting as well next Sunday, which is a bit odd. I'm not sure if this is a mandatory defense or a keep busy fight, but he's in with Polish Michael Cieslak is my attempted guess to pronounce his name. Is 21-1, 15 KOs. He's not really been in with anyone of significance. He's just fought exclusively in Poland, apart from once against Makubu and lost. That was in 2020. That was a decision. I assume it's just going to be business as usual for Okoli. That's at the O2 next Sunday on DAZN. Have you got any thoughts on that, or Okoli in general?
I mean, Okoli in general, I think we want to see unifications. I think he really proved himself, and I think it proved a lot of people wrong when he fought Glowacki. I thought he was pretty brilliant that night. He was able to use his reach, his long stands, hit him from range, dominated the fight. Used his power, and it was a complete contrast to we're both from the UK. We saw Lawrence Coley on the undercards, against the likes of your Matty Askins, which was still deserves criticism. It was one of the worst fights we've ever watched. It was, he got deducted 3 points for excessive clinching. Was it disqualification territory for that fight? Really? Yeah. If that had been, if it was a journeyman instead of Lawrence Coley, he probably would have been disqualified just for not fighting, or rather, just breaking up the exchanges. But getting rid of that style and then just being more aggressive, using his movement, just worked a world of wonders. So he's really proved himself. I think we just want the bravest fight. In terms of this one, I've never seen this Cieslak box before. I've gone on BoxRec to look at the scorecards for the Makabu fight, which is his only real fight of significance, and the average scorecard seemed to have it quite close.
Relatively close.
There was a 10-8 round there somewhere, so Makabu might have put him down. Obviously, that was a few years ago, so it's going to be hard to say. I think Coley will go in as the favourite, so maybe look for points where he might try and make a statement, wear him down. But if Cieslak can give Makabu some problems, look for, especially early on, for some problems for Coley. I might watch some more of him to form a bit more of a prediction. But maybe this, just because you've never heard of him, as in my case, doesn't mean they're always a bad opponent. So maybe this might have some fireworks to it.
True. Well, hopefully. I mean, sometimes it needs to. Although, not to be harsh on Okoli, he has, in more recent outings, he has, been a lot better than than previous bouts that you mentioned before.
Yeah, he's not looking to clinch anymore. He's looking to knock people out.
He was putting us to sleep for a while, but yeah, he's come good. Interesting to see, but though obviously what happens in the future for him. Going back to the schedule on BoxRec, is there anything else in the coming weeks that you want to touch on? I mean, we got Jose Carlos Ramirez against Jose Pedraza.
Ramirez Pedraza. When's that?
That is on the 4th of March, so that's 2 weeks' time.
Just in case we don't cover it, it's a decent comeback fight for enough, Ramirez. Yeah. I suspect he'll pick up a unanimous decision, but I think Pedraza will win a few rounds here and there.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. He's a decent opponent in the Pedraza, but it's just that level below.
I think it'll be like a 117, 111 type thing.
Yeah. So that's interesting enough. I can also see that was on a Friday, which is random. And on the Saturday is Roman Gonzalez versus Julio Cesar Martinez.
Oh, that's a fight to look forward to.
Yeah.
That should just. I don't think that could just allow. That might over exceed. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
That's on DAZN as well.
Yeah, I mean the boxing gods couldn't give us a Stratos, so they gave us that instead. And I think that'll be aggressive. They'll be in each other's faces, and I think if you want an early prediction, I think Roman Gonzalez will stop him.
Okay. Is Martinez coming up in weights for this one? from memory.
I think so. Well, I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm just having a look now. I've got it up on the stream. World flyweight,
Yeah, because it'll be at Superfly.
Superfly, and yeah, so he's been at flyweight previous to this. Yeah, because Estrada had to pull out, didn't he? And then I'm pretty sure he's jumped up weight to take his place.
Yeah, I think his last fight was against Nick Williams Arroyo as well.
Yeah,
and he got hurt and dropped to the first round of that. And years ago now, I think 2016, Roman Gonzalez got a decision against Arroyo. I think the pace, the power, and the overall ability of Gonzalez will show. I think it will be some fireworks, but I think Gonzalez actually might get rid of him in the first half.
Okay.
I think he'll break him down head and body.
Be interested to see what odds you can get on that. But yeah, do like a bit of Chocolatito. Always in a fun fight.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess that'll do us, I think, because we'll probably stream that weekend. That's 2 weeks away, isn't it? So
yeah,
probably a good time to do our next one, and we'll figure out what we'll be covering. So that is it. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in, and if you watched and scored along, hopefully we'll see you in the future. We'll keep everyone up to date on Twitter when there's live streams coming. If you want to follow Kaiser Cobra, he's also on Twitter. What's your handle, mate?
It's at Kaiser_Cobra.
And we'll put that links to his account in the descriptions as well. Alright, so we'll leave that there. We'll see you again in a few weeks. Thank you very much.